Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Teal, the season 6 finale. I'm Yuan Coin.
I'm Mimi Torchin.
And we're Lady Parts TV, and welcome to, for the final time in season 6, if we don't count the party, to Talking Teal. And speaking of the party, don't forget, you have just a few days left. Thursday, the 13th, at noon EST, is your latest chance to send us both your survey answers and your personal contributions. So go on our blog right now. I'm also putting links in the body of the whatever. Get your surveys, get the guidelines to what to do in terms of personal contributions, and we want to hear from as many of you as possible so we can all have a great big party. The party will be posted on Sunday, September 16th, and yes, we want as many of you to join us. Yes, now, before we go into the episode...
I just got off a 3-day photo workshop where I got up at 4:30 in the morning, 2 mornings in a row, and for me that is like, I don't even know what to tell you.
The fact that she got up this early to do Talking Teal today is spectacular, because otherwise she would probably have slept till noon, so that's how much Talking Teal
means to me. But I may not be as sharp as my usual tack today.
Now, before we go into the episode, I want to pose a question that Susan asked us, and honestly, I don't know the answer, and I hope that together we can figure this out. So,
no.
Well, no, it's not really it's a matter of speculating. Maybe you have some evidence this way or the other to show to substantiate your opinion. But she's asking, especially because of the whole Bee's Grave to 2017 as opposed to 2016. Vera not showing any pregnancy signs throughout the season. So we were wondering, Susan was wondering, what do you think is, I mean, do they really do work in real time? Do they, how long is a season? How long between seasons?
Yeah. In their time.
In their time, and then in between seasons when the next, I mean, this season, actually, like, this season started right after last season ended. The night when Ferguson, Ferguson and Frankie escaped. So we know that no time elapsed between that. So it's a little interesting. I mean, it's an interesting question to think from season 1 till now. And I know many of you have repeatedly watched all seasons, so maybe you have a better understanding, or maybe it changes.
And if Kathy Chambers or Pete
or any,
out there,
yeah, if you want to answer,
let us
give
know.
us an actual answer and not just a speculation.
Exactly.
All right, speaking of Pete, Showdown, Season 6, Episode 12, written, of course, by Pete and directed by Kevin Carlin.
In case someone is new out there,
Pete McTighe is the
head writer.
One of the head writers, yes. Now, I was kind of, there were many different reactions to the finale, and we don't hang out on social media or any of those message boards or anything that have to do with the show. So all we get is the feel that you send us through your emails. When we watched the finale, how did you feel?
I was thrilled. I just loved it. I mean, there's very few things that I watched that I could maybe have a little, question about this or that or the other, but taken as a whole and just sitting and enjoying it, I thought that they did a brilliant job. I thought it was a very exciting episode. I can't believe all of the things that they crammed into it. They wound things up to my satisfaction on the stalker story, although it was, as many people said.
Yeah, well, yeah. We're gonna.
But I loved it. I was very happy, and I said, okay, I'm glad that we said let's just wait and see how things turn out, because they got to it. They satisfied a lot of the things that made me throughout the season.
Yeah.
Well, how about you?
Well, we were really excited because the finales are usually exciting. Pete does a great job always in putting everything together, and everything was heightened. The way that the actual last few scenes were thrilling. Yeah.
I was just thinking about that fight scene.
Yeah, and of
course
we'll talk about. Oh yes, of course, as always, the craft, the artistry. It's just all so exciting. It really is.
Not to mention the actors. Yeah.
Yeah. But most of you actually, your responses ranged, but most of you agreed that the finale was quite predictable, which you lamented since it didn't live up to other finales maybe in the series history that really kind of blew you away. And when last week after we did Talking Teal, I thought to myself, well, we're all guessing that Murphy is going to be the stalker. which is fine. But if it is her, then it's kind of meh. Okay, not a big deal. But if it's going to be a surprise, then who the hell besides Joan Ferguson could live up to that level of build-up?
Yes, to tell you the truth, although I would have been enraged, what would have been exciting would have been Ferguson too. But I'm so glad it wasn't.
Well, I was thinking, is there somebody that they're going to pull out of their back pocket? I mean, I think they kind of put themselves in a corner a little bit because they really, really hyped it up, and Brenda Murphy was never going to live to that big build-up. But when I was watching the finale and I saw that they introduced her, the reveal was way, way at the beginning of the episode. I thought, okay, so actually the stalker, the identity of the stalker was not the big revelation of the episode. The big surprise of the episode was that she was shot in front of Vera's eyes, which even some of you had predicted that the stalker would be dead at the end of by the end of the finale. Was still a very shocking scene.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. First of all, by the way, Brenda Murphy dies really well. It was a great.
Yeah, I don't know
face.
how she kept her eyes open all
That was
that
great.
Time, I tried that sometime. What if I started off as an actress. What if I had to do that? No.
As many beginners have to do, just play somebody dead.
No, I never had to do that.
But also, not only just dead, but the dying part. That
Yeah.
always, it's hard to make
Well,
it look
she just died.
No, but she was like, the bullet went into her brain and she had to like throw herself against the wall. It was pretty impressive.
To me, it was a pretty easy death because when someone has to like die slowly in front of you, that's, dying is easy, comedy's hard, but it isn't that easy.
Anyway, though, it was a great scene. It was a big shocker. It was surprising. I think even those of you who predicted that the stalker would die, we're still shocked.
I don't know who it is, but someone had a very funny.
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
Yes. So first of all, I want to collect and present a few of your reactions. They're kind of either unique or representative of a lot of others. So first of all, by the way, Sarah says that she doesn't think it's anticlimactic, as many people have said, because she thinks Brenda Murphy is a big mistake from Vera's past. They have unfinished business, and in fact, the idea of her just going away and never coming back to seek revenge or something did seem kind of unlikely.
But that little chicken not to come back to roost, right?
Yeah.
Not likely.
So that actually was, in terms of Vera's story anyway, it made a lot of sense, and it was kind of an important thing to wrap up. Now, David, who, by the way, pretty much predicted everything that was going to happen in this episode. I'm beginning to think, David, that you have sources. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, David says, whilst I loved the reveal of the blackmailer, I couldn't help but wish there would have been a little more about Vera setting her up for B's death. There wasn't enough weight put behind Brenda's reasoning for blackmailing Vera. It all felt a little bit petty in the end. Brenda had real beef with her, and I feel it should have been explored more. Good point, David. On the other hand,
very fair-minded.
Denise makes a good point, and she says, I think this season, more than most, was plagued with spoilers. That might be why fans say they weren't surprised by anything in episode 12, but I disagree. I read some of those spoilers, but there were still shocking scenes. Yes, it was a little different from the other season finales, but still good. I agree with you, Denise. We hate spoilers.
I hate spoilers. We practically invented spoilers at Soap Opera Weekly, and I hate them.
Yeah, especially with a show like Wentworth. I mean, who wants to know? I mean, I guess you do. But we don't want to know. We want to be surprised, because the surprise, I think, is part of the excitement of the show. To the level of Diana sent me today, just the little thingies, the little blurbs that they have on the Wentworth website about where the characters are going. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't want to read this. I really don't want to know anything. And a lot of the time, especially last year with the Talking Teal Queen contest, you send us predictions, and in the end I was like, wow, how are they so on the money? And then I find out that there's been a lot of spoilers.
It's just a little aside thing for me about spoilers and the push me, pull me thing of spoilers. I remember, a long time ago when TV Guide, small TV Guide, and they, in their little blurbs about the shows, they always gave away something you just really didn't want to know. But I could not read them. It was like, I'm not going to read what's happening, their little 4 or 3 sentence blurbs, but I always did. And I always found out something I didn't want to know.
In Israel, growing up in Israel. We don't have the previews at the end of an episode, the preview for that. So when I came here, I was like, how do you guys live with those previews? They tell you, first of all, they are always misleading anyway.
But that's the good part.
Yeah. But I was like, I don't want to know. And then, of course, now I can. Well, what? They didn't give us a preview. The DVR saw before the preview came. Yeah. So, yeah, it is kind of a push me, pull me. But with spoilers, I'm absolutely, I don't want to know.
Nope.
And I know that this year, especially with the Screen Australia, whatever that was, they released some information that was really, really big spoilers.
What's the point of a spoiler other than to spoil your enjoyment of a show? I don't really understand it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, so I think there might have been that Denise might be right in this, that there has been a lot of spoilers that spoiled your experience. Anyway,
the word of the week is spoiler.
Let's see what Kathy had to say.
Kathy had quite a bit to say. The whole question of who the blackmailer is was just so anticlimactic. Murphy just shows up at Vera's door, sits on her couch, and has a smoke while they chat. I'm surprised Vera didn't offer her a cup of tea. I love that.
Shall I be mother?
Or just, would you like a cup of tea? It just seems they could have made that scene a little more frightening. Maybe they get into a tussle. Murphy threatens Vera, and Vera ends up in the hospital that way. Anyway, I'll save my alternative scenes for the wrap party. Although I do have to say, when Murphy got shot, that was a bit of a shocker. The thing is, yes, 2 people died, like the rumors we all heard, but Drago was predictable, and Murphy, nobody cares about. I thought for sure the second death would have been Ruby. Me too. I predicted it from the beginning. I was wrong.
You were wrong.
I'm sure the freak is dead, but they still haven't officially said that the body in the grave is hers.
About that in a minute.
Waiting for DNA? They could have just as easily said the DNA came back and it's Ferguson.
Well, actually,
why are they fucking with us and just dragging this out?
I was gonna say, if they had come back and said, "Oh, the DNA confirms it's Ferguson," we would have all been saying, "Oh, it's so unrealistic." Really, within 24 hours or less, then you have DNA results. We know it takes longer. So actually, I'm all for. Well, but it does. I'm all for keeping it realistic and not saying that the DNA came back. But I think, for all intents and purposes, we've got a confirmation. I don't think at this point I am not worried anyway. I have to say that
even the corpse looked like her, as far as I was concerned.
I have to say that when they said that there were bloody scratch marks, I felt sad. I mean, I don't like to see people suffer.
I didn't feel sad, but I felt sort of horrified.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
It's
a terrible, about the worst possible way to die.
Yeah,
so.
No matter how much yes, she became loathsome in the end, but I did love her, and I just still I still mourn the death of the character that I loved, which happened around season 4-ish. So, okay, Lily says, pinning Ferguson's death on Channing doesn't really make sense to me. Why would Channing kill Murphy thinking it was Ferguson if he supposedly already killed the freak? Interesting idea, Lily. Unless they...
Yes, that's kind of double jeopardy, isn't it?
Well, it's not even double jeopardy.
I mean,
it's double... You can't kill a person twice. Well, I guess some people would find ways. But unless the whole killing of Murphy wouldn't maybe be presented to the cops as he was trying to kill Ferguson.
Well, and the other thing is that he had sort of lost it by that point.
It does... And so I guess he could just keep seeing her everywhere?
Exactly. He could have...
So. Well, especially, combined with being high on cocaine and other things. Yeah, I guess you can make a case.
He was in some form of a mania.
You can make a case that, definitely, that's a good point.
Well, okay.
Lauren says, it was strangely hilarious the crazed way Channing came running out saying, "I got the bitch." The writers did show Channing's descent into madness and obsession, so it wasn't a far stretch that he would be hunting Joan to the point of shooting her. What?
I'm just moving up because I realized that it's blended in here, making me look like I have a shoulder that's about 2.5 feet wide.
I did find it interesting, and I kind of enjoy it actually, but I did find it weird that they chose to make some of the stuff about the stalker quite humorous. Brenda putting the smiley face in the text message.
I loved it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It showed that there was a personality at the other end of all that was going on.
Well, and they didn't try to make it really scary or creepy. And then actually when Channing came, I mean, it was such a shocking moment when he shoots, when she's shot. We don't know who it is yet. And then Channing kind of comes prancing in, and actually Thera says, Channing running towards Vera saying he got Ferguson, he sounded like Obama saying, "We've got Bin Laden."
And
I
I think it's a pretty apt comparison,
Oh.
Ferguson and Bin Laden at that point.
I thought it kind of lightened it up, and it surprised me, and I enjoyed it.
I have to say that the even though we didn't care about Brenda that much, but the shock of that death, sort of the only thing that I can think of that was really, really, really the most shocking death of that time.
They killed Jayon.
No, was in
Lip
Lip
Service. Yes.
When they killed
Cat.
Oh my God! Out of nowhere, she steps off a curb and is.
That's it. A little different though in terms of the magnitude of the character.
Exactly.
And the
wow, that was just amazing.
Just like coming out of nowhere. Yes, I don't think even those of you who predicted that the stalker was going to die never predicted it would happen like that. So it was very fun.
I loved it.
Tell us what Lauren says.
Lauren says, "Strange though." Here we go. Strange though that he thought Murphy was Joan just because of her bun. I mean, Joan was a huge woman in comparison to Murphy. Oh well, great twist. That's a nice acceptance, Lauren. Yeah. Rather convenient, too, that Vera could take the phone and delete the evidence. Although I was thinking that would be difficult as today's security codes on phones aren't that easy to crack without help. ... By the way, that's the second phone in this series Vera is going to have to dispose of carefully.
Yes, and actually, several of you said that you don't think that this storyline is really a done deal yet because some of you think Channing will protest the charges. Vera still has the phone. Murphy could have easily backed up the photo and it could come back to haunt Vera.
Many things, but it did show her presence of mind.
Yeah. It is though, within the Wentworth MO to bring things back to haunt people.
And all of these things to me, there's so many things from in everything that you watch that you just have to give dramatic license.
Yeah.
In order to move something in a direction you need it to go to. Life doesn't always happen that way, but drama has to, and you just have to give a little dramatic license to something. And Lauren, it seems to me that you were being, understanding and generous, even though you brought them up.
And in fact, as we were watching the finale, I turned to her and I said, I kind of feel bad because oftentimes we are kind of
critical,
hard on them in terms of the minor details. Because we're so critical, all of us.
Because it's so good.
We watch so closely, and the standard is very high, and we have high expectations. But oftentimes, if we're just a little patient, some of the things do pay off in the end. Some of the things are being explained, or we see why they were done a certain way. And some of the things, are just minor and are just.
It's kind of not fair. We watch, guilty pleasure shows.
It's like your
teacher. Just enjoying them, just letting them.
Your teacher who gave you a C because you said you're an A student doing a C.
I got a C in my freshman year of acting, or sophomore year of acting. I was a very good actress, and I said, a C? I said, why are you giving me a C? She said, because you're an A actress doing C work. And it is, I got an A next semester, by the way.
But it's true. You have high expectations.
You have high expectations, and it isn't kind of fair that you let crap shows slide and great shows we dissect with magnifying glasses. But that's sort of in this critical world, in this world of social media and all that. That's just sort of the price you have to pay for being brilliant.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk more about the actual what happened to the characters. Now, as far as I see it. The way that I see it, Wentworth they put a couple of the characters in the spotlight, and they practically benched some other characters. Some of them were completely benched, and you were also a little bit surprised by that.
What they do in soap operas,
Yes, but the finale of a season that's only 12 episodes, you expect everybody to have
their
role.
moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk especially about the two characters that were really, literally, completely benched. Kaz, to begin with.
Kaz.
Yes, she barely...
Kaz should have really figured in some of this
Exactly,
stuff.
Which is why we're so surprised. I mean, they benched major characters, not just, So we barely saw Kaz. The only really two things that we saw happening were the important scene that she had with Vera, when she finds out that Mary is going to be in Wentworth for a long time, and that she gets Vera's blessing and support for her, maintaining top dogship. And then also she the second scene is that she finds out for sure now that Will and Mary have a thing. So Mary has Will's support. So she knows that. I am glad, as were many of you, that we did end the season with Kaz still being top dog, but we also ended it with two new, I think possibly new top dog runners, Rita and Mari, who might be vying for top dog next season, or might just stumble upon it because of necessity. Stumble into it, I mean, because of necessity. Speaking of Mari, that is another benched character who was completely out for the entire season finale. She was in the slot. And just,
I was going to say she was in the slot. There's not much she could have done.
Well, they put her there
for
the season finale. It's the writers. The writers had the power. So really, most of her role in the season finale was to set up season 7. And I think it's a very exciting, big setup. Now, Susan answered our question. She's a paralegal. She works in the U.S. And she answered our question from last season about the new charges for Mari.
And by the way, I said, not with as much information behind it, that they were different charges. It was not double jeopardy by any stretch of the imagination. But thank you, Susan, certified paralegal in the U.S., for backing up my completely everything I know about the law I know from television.
SVU.
Well, especially SVU, but I've watched many, many legal shows.
Okay.
For backing it up. Assault and murder/manslaughter are not the same. It's not double jeopardy. An old court of appeals ruling stated that a person convicted of a lesser crime could later be charged with murder only if the first conviction was for a non-homicide offense. Attempted murder is a homicide offense, but Mari was charged with assault. Also, there is a delayed death exception to the ruling of double jeopardy, where a defendant cannot be charged with the same crime twice.
That's double jeopardy.
I think most of us know what double jeopardy is at this point. Offenders can find themselves charged with murder after the attack of their victim. Actions have consequences, and when those actions take another life, even after a period of time, full justice for the victim will still be achieved.
Hopefully.
Well, at least it will be attempted to be achieved. In a time where medical advances can prolong the life of a critically injured victim,
That's a good point.
Yes, a prosecutor must proceed on the basis of the victim's president.
Oh,
I'm
it's
thinking
wishful
of a
thinking.
victim president, but let's not go there.
Let's not.
A victim's present condition. When death follows, it is in society's interest that the homicide be addressed.
Okay,
Ta-dam.
thank you. Thank you, Susan. So thank you for responding to that question. Now, Lauren says, now that Mary has snapped the essential USB drive with all of her information, what next? I thought that was her little guarantee.
Yeah.
And now it is destroyed. Can Mary truly manipulate others without that essential information on all those powerful people she tries to control? Obviously, Rita now has a very hard job and may never be able to prove anything, bringing Mari down. Personally, I don't think if at this point that, being a detective, finding a USB drive, I think she's going to be on a whole different...
She's going to want to stay alive.
Well, yes, but it's not even about that. I think that, her affair with the cops obviously has ended. So if she wants to take Mary down, I don't think it will be that way. It will be another way.
Another way, yes. More personal.
Plus, I personally can't imagine that was the only place she saved that information.
I was just going to say that. That's not the only place, that one little wussy drive. She has some other ones buried somewhere else.
I have backups of things that are not nearly as important to her as this is to her. So I'm sure she has a backup somewhere. But that was a symbolic...
There are people who have toenail clippings in safes. I mean, come on. This is like her insurance policy for life.
Yeah, she has it somewhere else. But it was a symbolic way to show, I know I'm on to you and you're not going to get to me that easily.
I loved it too. It was great.
Now tell us what Rachel had to say.
Rachel said, I think they missed an opportunity in this episode. They have not hesitated to mirror B's entrance into the prison or echoed shots from the Bally relationship, so why not have a discussion between Mari and Kaz while they are in the slot to fill us in on their history?
I love that idea, Rachel.
It's a really brilliant idea. Before we got to see B and Allie bond,
before when the valley scene in the slot, remember when they rapped together?
Oh yeah, before we got to see B and Allie.
Comma. There needs to be a
Commas.
Commas are so important. Eat
Before
shoots and leaves.
each shoots and leaves, right? Before we got to see. My sister, my mother. Before.
Would put it in the blooper reels, but it's too
No,
good. I'm
listen,
keeping it.
it's just because I'm tired. We got to see B and Allie bond. This time, we could have had some real groundwork laid for the war to come between these two. Instead, we just got Kaz finding out that Will has jumped over to Mary's side. It could have been so much better.
I'm so in agreement with you, and also it would have been a great way to include Kaz and Mary in the season finale. So I'm totally there with you, Rachel.
Kaz could have rapped.
Rachel also asked who will become Mary's new enforcer, which is an interesting question.
Rita?
You're all invited to guess and let us know. I did love how she delivered that line, "Fucking Rita." That was a great moment.
She's so great. I love Susan.
Camille says that she wanted to see, she's disappointed that Channing seems to at least be out of the picture now, because she did want to see more of the Mary, Allie, Channing, their history together and the present, what they can do together. So, that would have been fun, but I guess there isn't time for everything. By the way, before we move on, speaking of benched characters, did anybody else notice the complete disappearance of Juicy Lucy?
Well, it's hard. She can't talk.
But it's like, why did they even bother bringing her back?
Well, she did have a couple of pivotal things.
Not this season.
A few little things.
No, they were not pivotal at all.
Maybe she needed the work for her insurance.
You're always worried about people's insurance. I think insurance in Australia is better than Europe. Speaking of benched characters, let's talk about Allie. What is there to say about Allie? Allie who? Right?
I was just about to say who.
So, the only Allie seems to be the new Smiles. Smiles actually, I think, had more to do this season.
Allie, really. Although Allie did have some
but the things she did we didn't like.
Crappy things to do, yeah.
She basically did what Smiles usually does, which is facilitate other pieces of the chess game moving along. Sarah said something that I love. I know it's very far-fetched. I know there's very little chance, but please, Wentworth writers, if you're listening, if there's a season 8 maybe, she said that, Allie and Rita seem to have a little bit of chemistry, and Rita is much more, actually, of Allie's type than Ruby. B, Mari. And even though I know Rita is straight, or at least we only saw her with a man.
Hey, this is women's prison.
Exactly, she's in for a while.
Gay for the stay, people.
I'm all for it. Allie and Rita. We do see the prisoners kind of treat her like a pariah to a certain extent. It's not even that bad, no. but Boomer even was mean to her. Which really means pretty much that the only person she has left, I think, to be friends with is Mari.
Well,
and possibly Rita.
Yeah. I mean, Kaz, who was her strongest supporter.
That's it.
No, she's completely
she
betrayed
moved to the
that.
other side. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder what we're going to see her do or not do in season 7.
I don't understand this diarrhea of the mouth that she suddenly. It's just blurting these pivotal things out without thought.
And in the season finale, basically what she did was mope around, be there in the right moment to let Rita out, and that's it. I mean, it was so... I cringed, and I cringe at the thought of what they're going to do with her in season 7, because they just don't seem to understand the gold mine that they have, both in Kate Jenkinson and in Allie.
And in Allie.
Now, Diana...
But especially in Jenko.
Yeah. Diana sent us a quote from Kay Jenko, where she says, I think she's only just learning how to become a woman. So it is interesting to play Allie, but also so really frustrating, especially in a show like Wentworth, where so many of the women are strong and capable and super intelligent, and evil is so interesting to play too. So while I find Allie's lack of those qualities frustrating, that's what makes her so interesting. Because if every character in Wentworth was like Bea or Frankie, then there would be no light and shade. Personally, I read this and thought, oh, bless her heart, she's really trying hard to justify this for herself. it's not interesting. I'm sorry, it's not. Maybe it's interesting for her as an actress to try to frustrate all of her.
I think it must be deadly for
I
her
think so
as an
too.
actress.
I think she's just being a really nice, good sport and trying to just be, supportive of the show. But I think it is extremely frustrating as an actress as well to be there and kind of be sitting on your hands and not doing anything really. So the next benched character was Ruby. Ruby didn't die. That's pretty much what she did in this finale.
Yes, she didn't die.
That's pretty much the extent of her plot in this finale. So now there's a note in Liz's memory box that says Ruby's the killer.
I love.
Not saying who she killed, by the way. So with the exception of Mari, who could interpret it because she knows a lot of other things, but otherwise nobody I think could actually tell killing who. So that could be interesting.
Well, the other difference is I didn't miss Mari having nothing to Ruby having nothing to do.
Oh no.
Allie, I miss.
Yeah.
I know Allie. I love Allie. I'm interested in Allie. Ruby, I've never liked. I don't know that I ever will like. And so I didn't care. Her absence to me was not conspicuous at all because I just didn't. I was happy not to have to deal with her.
To me, one of the reasons actually that the finale worked so much and was exciting to me is because the entire season they really, really focused on Ruby and Allie as a couple and Ruby herself and her story, where in fact the finale benched Ruby and brought Rita to the fore, Vera to the fore, characters who I love, I'm invested in, and that I wanted to see more of.
Yes.
So that's something the finale did that worked that didn't work in the rest of the season.
Yeah, because we had too much Ruby through the early part of the season.
Yeah, and they brought in, the beginning was so exciting because Mari and Rita came in and they were, oh my God, fresh meat, new blood, and really fantastic actresses.
Oh.
Great, strong characters. And then they kind of used them again, kind of here and there, but really focused on either the stalker thing or Ruby. Not enough given to.
But to me, the difference is that everything that Leah had to do, that Rita did, even if it was just a little thing, had impact.
I know, but I wanted to see more.
Well, exactly.
It wasn't enough.
But that's also good.
And now we see in the finale, we see what she's capable of.
And also that little bit of hunger they gave us. It's like when you taste.
But I could have done with some less hunger.
I don't mind as long as I get to eat that cinnamon bun.
By the way, Ruby was supposedly supposed to be transferred to Barnhurst, which is where Maxine was transferred to.
Who?
And what I don't understand is they already put the papers in. The transfer was put into motion, and now the cops are saying they're going to stop it. She's not going to get transferred. It seems extremely petty. They didn't undo the dropping of the charges of Boomer, so I think that was a bit contrived to keep Ruby in for season 7. But I thought it was just like, really? You already... No, I mean, you're going to make her pay by not switching her... I mean, no.
I just thought of an interesting... I have a little
Do share with
fake
the class.
prediction. No, I'm saving it for the party.
Will you remember it?
No, but I'll tell you. Oh.
Oh, all right. Would you really believe that?
Have we heard anything?
All right, we'll talk about it later. So now let's move to Liz and Boomer, who had minor roles in this episode. Mostly just providing kind of a look back at the past and a look into the future. So first of all, I personally thought it was very funny that Liz forgot to give the note to Mari. I just thought it was very funny.
It was just, I love everything that's happening with Liz and Boomer this season, even though it's sad.
Well, that's the thing, though.
It's sad for Liz, but it's still so effective.
So you love it from the point of view of marveling at the acting and the...
yes. No, I don't love what's happened to her.
It's awful.
It's horrible and tragic, and I can't bear it. But I love what we're getting
out of
from
her.
it. It's...
I think we're all just kind of... just sitting there watching her descend, see her light dim, and really just kind of wondering if she's just going to die, in season 7. And I don't want Liz to die. I love Liz too
because
much.
we're going to lose Katrina.
No, not Katrina. Celia.
No, but we're going to lose.
Oh, we're going to lose Katrina. Well, assuming that she's being released.
Well, yes, but
yes,
theoretically,
it's too many.
If we lose Katrina and lose Liz, That's
unless they did it all thinking that season
unbearable.
7 was going to be the last, and
Which
unless it is the
is.
last, which
Even
possibly.
so, I don't want to go through all
I
season
agree.
7 without my two of my favorite,
or
most intrinsic to the show characters.
Or seeing Liz just being worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and then dying in the end. It's
brain tumor.
Yeah, let's see. But anyway, so the note in the memory box got all you guessing. Who's going to find the note? Most of you are hoping Allie is going to be the one finding the note, if only so that she has something to do.
Exactly.
And that it would maybe completely separate, be done with the idea of her having a relationship with Ruby. And by the way, Thera says something very smart, that Mari doesn't actually need to find the notes, because when she goes into her cell, she's going to see that Drago put a pin in Ruby's picture in her head, and that's pretty much, I think, and seeing what Rita did, I mean, I think it's pretty, I think Mari has already figured it out.
I think it's very symbolic. She put the pin in her head, considering she has the aneurysm.
Right. Here she's popping that aneurysm. That scene with Liz and Boomer around the memory box was a beautiful scene.
Beautiful.
Invoking the names of Frankie and Bee and Maxine and
People
Doreen.
We miss and love so much. Well,
yes,
I don't miss Doreen.
No.
Doreen.
Boomer has always been the voice of the fans. Reminiscing and wanting the old days to be back and wanting our old characters. So it was very, very poignant, but also sweet and tender. And I love what Dee said, which is, Liz epitomizes the 1 Corinthian quote, love is patient, love is kind. Liz never holds a grudge against Boomer, even though she threatens to bash her, reveals her personal health information, and is continually a nuisance to her. Liz is written with a lot of self-doubt, but she never fails to love. That is very true.
Very true. And it's, her strong suit is that she's just love.
She's like the mother hen.
In the prison is the light. She's the light.
Yeah, she's really pure love.
Yes, which makes the dimming of her light all the more
sad and horrible.
Yeah.
I love the scene with Boomer and Vera. First of all, because it gave Vera, I think, the first thing the whole season to do where she actually had, she enjoyed it. She enjoyed
it, but I thought that it took her a very long time to get to that good news.
No, and she had to hold back from smiling. She's trying to be assertive. She's trying to be authoritarian.
Yes, but if she had good news, I would have.
I know, but it was very sweet. Lack of forensic evidence. I thought it was fantastic. But I really think that Vera herself enjoyed giving somebody finally some good news. And I love that Rita insisted, as part of the deal with the cops, that Boomer's charges be dropped. Mm-hmm. And now most of you are wondering if she's going to be... I don't think she's going to be, by the way. A couple of people wondered if she's going to be released during Season 7 or if she's going to be released in the gap between seasons and just not show up in Season 7. First of all, I think there would be...
a waste, a total waste, my God. Like Maxine. We could, I guess, live through Maxine being sort of whisked away and never heard of again. Yeah. But
at least she got a goodbye, even though it was
she did,
lame
right.
one.
But to do that
to one of our favorite characters who was there from the very beginning.
First of all, it would be enraging, and secondly, a total lack of an emotional moment, which we need.
No. She's going to be there. I think we know that she's going to be in Season 7 anyway. And many of you say that you want to see her. Probably she'll be released somewhere in the middle of the season so that she can get her own big episode like Frankie and Bridget did in the middle. And many of you say that you want at least Frankie and preferably Frankie and Bridget to come and pick her up in their hot car.
It'll have to be a little bit bigger hot car than a 2-seater, but
Was it a 2-seater?
Well, it was. If it wasn't a 2-seater, it had one of those back seats that's just there, so you can say it's a back seat. Okay. I mean, you can only put your child or your dog in that back seat.
Maybe Frankie and Bridget will come back with a baby in a car seat in the back. All right. Anyway, we'll save it for we'll save it for your synopsis for your spin-off thingy for the party. Don't forget you have a spin-off thingy for the party.
Spin-off thingy.
Yeah, you can write your ideas or your synopses or your first episodes of either any spin-off you want or a Frigid spin-off, and I think that's a fun one. All right, so now to the minor players, Will and Jake. Laura,
Not so minor this season.
not so much of the season, but I'm saying for the finale.
Oh,
They
yeah.
played a role, but they still weren't the stars. So Lauren had some harsh words for Will.
Yes, Lauren. I found it completely annoying that Will informed Mari about Rita looking around Mari's cell. Why would he run and tell her that? Again, I don't get his connection to Mari, and it just seems out of character for him to go tell her that. It's like his confidant role with Kaz has been switched to Mari in some twisted way. I really liked Will until his dalliances with Mari, and now I'm just not on his side any longer. I want the old Will back, a character I used to believe in and supported.
Yeah, except that, you know, if I were to accept this kind of out of character behavior in any season, this is the season because he has been out of his
Exactly.
brain with, yeah,
Guilt and remorse and
a
fear and a
fear, and I think a sense of a loss of way.
Yes.
I mean, you know, what he did with Ferguson was so out of character for him. Though still in character because he was doing it for a good purpose.
Yes, selfless. It was an act that he took
Yeah.
such a thing upon himself that would weigh on him, that would change who he was forever for the good of the women.
And you know, and he said at some point, he said to Vera that he did it so that Kaz wouldn't have to do it. And you know, he might be harboring a subconscious resentment. It might be that there's just too much. That when he looks at her, he sees too much of what he doesn't want to remember. And when he looks at Mary and fucks her, then of course it all disappears because she's new and she doesn't know that history.
Right. And
so, you know, I think that actually I'm giving him more lenience.
A little bit more, because when he realized that having that release with Mari gave him was like
a few moments of
like
relief.
Some kind of a calming drug, you
Mhm.
know. I think it. Then it became like a drug.
Yeah.
And
she's so good at
oh my God,
seducing and
everybody.
You know,
yes, she knows just the thing to do. And what a person!
I mean, we
what
love
people
her.
need.
We love her, and we know
Yes,
she's bad.
yeah, and what people need to feel loved and nurtured at a moment when they need it,
Right.
And really need it. She's a brilliant manipulator.
Yeah.
She is masterful.
So now he knows, Vera told him that she was supporting Kaz for Top Dog. So, you know, two different sides of the fight. Yeah. So that will be interesting how that will play out. And Rachel says,
Will and Vera have now been set up to be at odds with each other. Vera, it's hard to say, Vera will be backing Kaz, and Will is going to have to back Mary, although he doesn't have to.
I'm sure he will.
Yes, I'll be interested to see where this goes. Vera has no idea that Mary has Will by the balls, and that could create some interesting situations for next season.
Absolutely.
Very, very astute. However, when you say that he has to, I don't know why he has to.
No.
He and Kaz have a long-term
I'm not saying that
relationship.
He has to, but you know, he and Mari have kind of established a symbiotic relationship. She gave him the information on Channing without even batting an eyelash, and you all said, "Oh, what does she have to? What will she get out of it? What will she get out of it?" Is that now he feels he owes her, right. And he's
sort of addicted,
and
to
he
her.
feels loyal to her. She is. That's why she does that. She's really, really good. I'm quoting a previous Talking Teal writer saying that she is good because she knows how to give the person what she wants to do, what she wants to get out of them, making them feel like it's for their own benefit and they want it. Mm-hmm. So that's a very good observation.
Yeah, she hasn't gotten where she's gotten by not being
exactly
smart.
Now David says next season, Will, Mari, and Kaz will explode next season. Kaz and will happen. Okay.
What does that mean?
It means that they will finally have sex, I guess? That they'll finally be together?
Is that what you mean?
I think so. Isn't it, David? You tell me. Now, Jake. So, it seems like Wentworth are really, really, really trying hard to redeem Jake for us. Is he redeemed? Is he redeemed for you?
Oh, no, he's so annoying. He's like, you know what he's like? He's like a male mosquito. They can't bite you, but they're really annoying when they buzz around you.
Interesting, very interesting simile. I think that the entire season, Jake has been really trying to be on his good behavior because he thought he could win Vera back. My question is now she's consistently shut him down, and now that he knows she's pregnant and she's still shutting him down, saying you won't have anything to do with this child. Will he now like, well, fuck this trying to be on my good behavior thing, and will he start going against her? Will he start being manipulative again?
Will he
will that set
really
him off?
start to make himself totally indispensable to her, so that there's many ways he could go, so he could be a part of this child's life,
Maybe.
if this is what he really wants.
Maybe. Let's see what you say. So there's David who says, Vera and Jake's relationship will be the focus of season 7. Whilst I can't see a full reconciliation, I can see her allowing him to be a part of the baby's upbringing. Okay. Lauren says, I'd so love to see Vera have a better trajectory. She's been tied to Jake for far too long now. Which was interesting because, we all, and when we talk about Vera in a minute, Vera has had a wonderful trajectory in terms of her confidence. But it's true, her storyline has been attached to Jake's for a couple of seasons now. So I would like to see an independent storyline for Vera.
It's like an albatross, like the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, with that albatross wrapped around his, or Jacob Marley dragging his chains behind. Oh, I could go on all day with these.
Oh, your metaphors and similes. Why don't we talk about Rachel first?
Yeah, Rachel's much more interesting than I am. The one thing I hate about the way they wrapped up the Vera plot line is that Jake will still be around for next season. Last year we hated him. This year he's just been a whiny nag, and I'm over it. He'll be around making Vera's life miserable, trying to convince her he's a changed man. He's like a bad smell that won't go away, and it's not dramatic. It's annoying. The only way Jake ever gets redeemed is if he dies saving Vera from something. But he would have to die.
I'm okay with that.
So it's a no-win situation for
him.
Jake.
But it would be for me. I would be okay with that. And I think it would be an interesting...
Although he does play his role. I mean,
he doesn't really
and
play
Bernard
almost
Curry
anyone.
is very, very good.
And that's what I wanted to say. That was my next thing that I wanted to say, was that we really, because we've been kind of loathing Jake the entire time, we never took the chance to really talk about how wonderful Bernard Curry is. And I would just like to quote Shannon saying, Bernie was so convincing in portraying Jake's disappointment that I almost felt bad for him for a second until I remembered exactly how he'd gotten himself into that situation. But it's true, Bernard has been wonderful and very effective in playing Jake.
And he's been very good at changing, shifting gears. It's been very smooth. His transitions are wonderful. And everything he does, I believe.
Yeah.
He's a very good actor.
He is. So now let's talk about the 2 stars of the season 6 finale. Let's start with Vera. Now, Vera, I think, probably had her best season, not in terms of her storyline, but in terms of the character's growth. She's kind of the opposite of Allie. They just keep growing. She just keeps growing and growing and growing. And this year, she really was assertive. She stuck to her guns. She
flowered.
It was excellent. I really, really would have liked to see more of a storyline for her, that's unrelated to Jake, that's unrelated to Stalker, that's unrelated to Ferguson, just her own personal story.
Well, except that
the pregnancy.
How much time is there? I mean, she was so busy with all of these issues.
I would have. Well, that's a choice, isn't it? You make a choice as to what you want to put your time into and who you want to give that time to. And I would have given it more to Vera, especially with the pregnancy. I think, even though I guess they wanted to keep it a surprise, maybe in the beginning, then still the deliberating that all that stuff. I would have loved to have seen more. And by the way, Rachel was the one who said last week we asked what was it with the birds that Vera was looking at. We thought it was pelicans. Rachel nailed it. She said it was storks, and it was a sign that she's still pregnant, because of course storks are known to bring babies.
I think that's
how babies come to the world.
Very good, but I still think they were pelicans. But that's okay.
Okay. All right. So I really loved what Rachel said about Vera's.
I love what Rachel says about
always.
everything.
It's pretty true. That's true.
I like that we got to see Vera fight her own instincts. This is such a good point. When she types out the text and deletes the word please, we see that Vera is no longer willing to be submissive to someone else. I love that. That
such a great observation, too.
It's a great observation, but it was such a great moment. And the way she executed it, you can just see the little wheels turning around in that little
I've
that
said
little
it.
Vera had.
I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. Wentworth to me is at its best in the details.
Mhm.
This is a detail that gives you so much information on the character's state of mind and on the character's growth, and it's
And
just
who
a
she
tiny thing.
is.
It's a tiny thing.
And her thought process,
Mhm.
and it just took a few seconds.
Yeah.
Really, it was so great. When she's terrified by the blackmailer at her door, she starts to call the police for help, but then decides to handle it on her own. I think mostly because she realizes she might be
Incriminating herself, yeah.
But still, nevertheless,
Nevertheless.
you did see her think it through. When Murphy is shot in front of her, she keeps a calm enough head to grab Murphy's phone before the police arrive. She wavers along the way, but she never breaks. While Vera is dealing with the police investigation, a blackmailer, 2 accomplices, a mooning ex-boyfriend, and a pregnancy, she still manages to care about the women in the prison. She still wants to do what is right when it comes to her job. She takes real pleasure in telling Boomer her assault charges have been dropped and her parole is coming. She openly declares her support for Kaz as top dog, not only to Kaz, but also to Will. As fortuitous as the Channing storyline was, it was nice to see Vera come out on top for a change. It won't last, so I'm going to enjoy the moment.
I hope it does last a little bit, at least in that department. I do think it's funny, though, that yes, she does care about the women so much, but she just had another death under her watch.
I don't know how in the world she's still
a governor.
A governor.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I love her as governor. I wouldn't want anybody else as governor. I love Vera as governor. I just don't know how realistic it is that she's still there.
Although Murphy, talking about Drago, of course. I was going to say Murphy is not really a prisoner, but Drago is. Yeah. And she allowed the Fight Club.
She didn't allow the Fight Club. Kaz did. She didn't know about the Fight Club.
She should have known about
she should have known about the Fight Club. And in fact, Kathy's asking, after all these years, should she have already figured out that Smiles takes money and bribe from everybody?
Everybody for
and allows
everything.
I think that by now she should have been onto it, or at least there should have been a hint at her suspecting or something. But all right.
Again, dramatic license.
So about the pregnancy, you have differing reactions, and we're going to read the 2 that I think represent. So Susan says, I can't believe Vera is having Jake's demon spawn baby. Having a baby does not make someone a more interesting character. I think it's the opposite. And they had a chance to show an abortion and the steps women go through to get there. Wasted opportunity. You know,
the emotional stakes of it.
I'm usually, because it's true, it's very rare that a show will allow a character to go through an abortion. They contemplate it. They sometimes even go to the clinic already, and then they regret it, or they decide not to go through with it.
All My Children, they had her aborted child return 20 some odd years later.
The unabortion.
The unabortion on All My Children.
But they went through the abortion. They went through all the death threats they probably got for it, and then to bring it back many years later.
For really no reason.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary.
So I see what you're saying, and in fact, I agree. Oftentimes I think that the pregnancy storyline is very trite and old and cliched. However, Denise has a different opinion.
Yes. The fact that Vera chose to keep the baby was another one of the moments that I realized how deep this show actually is. Vera might not get another chance to be a mom. By her deciding to raise a child on her own is huge, because so many women think to have a baby it has to be traditional. And it doesn't. Commas, girls, commas. Divorced moms with absentee fathers do it all the time. So good on the writers for showing women who are strong and are trying to make their life as normal as they can be in a very abnormal and unsettling environment. Now, that's a good observation. However, I think that it's an observation from 20 years ago. I mean, women have been having babies on their own and making this decision for a very long time.
The only way that I can talk about this that is not about big issues, it's about Vera specifically. And I think for Vera, who is very lonely, I think the idea of Vera having a child, which will be kind of a healing experience because she had such a terrible mother. And she doesn't believe she can be a good mother. She is so conflicted within herself, especially because of her role in the prison. She's this, on one hand, she's this naive, kind of small, shy person. On the other hand, she's really trying to be authoritative and strong. And this child is like taking her life to a new level, taking it to a new place where she might have finally somebody who will love her, somebody she will love. She will find her mothering, nurturing side. She might become, mothers are also very strong
Fierce.
lionesses. Yeah. So I think in terms of Vera specifically, that it's not something that I would think was an obvious and cliche trajectory for the character, and could be a very interesting, and
Yes.
especially, again, I think that a lot of these storylines do seem like the writers in the back of their head had this notion of, season 7 might be our last. What do we want for these characters? How do we want them to end their storyline? And I think for Vera, if they were thinking about it as her final storyline, to know that she has a family of her own now is a sweet, sweet, heartwarming idea.
It really is. I had a point I wanted to make.
I'm so sorry.
It doesn't matter. It's gone. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, what I was going to say is Vera already, as a figure of authority, is so diminutive and physically and unimposing physically. Adding now pregnancy to that is going to have to make her be doubly tough to maintain that steely, that attitude.
That's a really, really good point.
Being in charge.
That's a really, really good point. And I hope that the writers, well, it's already done, but I hope that the writers took the opportunity to show that, because it made me think about The Night Manager. The show The Night Manager, a miniseries, a British miniseries. It was just so good.
It was so good.
And Olivia Colman, who is divine, was pregnant in real life, and of course the director was a woman, so she cast her even though she knew she was going to be heavily pregnant, like I'm talking about to give birth,
and she had to do a lot of
physical stuff. And she was a very strong character. She was trying to catch this very, very bad guy, Hugh Laurie. Anyway, and doing all of that and being assertive and being bossy and all those things while being 9 months pregnant.
Still schlepping around and showing how difficult it was and how her feet swelled and all of that stuff, but she still did what she had to do.
And I loved it. Because, usually when you see pregnant women on television or in movies and stuff, it's kind of a compromised condition.
Yes.
It's a woman, supposed to be...
Or they deny it. On soaps, they used to carry big purses, stand behind counters.
Right.
Yeah.
So I hope that the writers really took this opportunity to show that women can be pregnant and still assertive and still in positions of power.
Still do what they need
still
to
boss
do.
people around and all that other stuff. Now, let's talk about Rita. And Susan has, kind of like Zoya the Destroyer. Susan has Rita the Beater.
I like that. Excellent.
It was a fantastic fight scene, and may I just again reiterate, Kathy Chambers, you're our goddess.
You are.
You are a goddess.
You are. I mean, and your work as a visual person, also, I just marvel at your acumen.
And the lighting and the editing,
the artistic,
and the choreography,
the artistic quality of this particular scene,
especially, but this show in general.
In general, every little moment, every little shadow, every little shaft of light, it adds so much to the show.
And Bridget, I don't know if you meant it that way, but Bridget was talking about Leah Purcell's preparation for this scene and the boxing. And I don't know if you know this, Bridget, but I would like to remind other people that Leah grew up with boxing because her father had a boxing, what is it called? A gym, right? And he taught boxing, and Leah grew up learning boxing, which is why also her first, mostly autobiographical piece was called Box the Pony. And if you watch our interview with Leah, which you should, then you will know all that. So anyway, it was really great that she was, I'm sure that they built the story around boxing because she had that. But it was so great to see her put that into action and really, see somebody who knows what they're doing. It was great.
That boxing through line, I thought added a great deal to the show. in many, many ways. I loved it.
I'm on the fence about it. I could
You
take
don't
it
like
or leave it.
boxing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really like boxing, but they didn't end up making it as central as I was worried that they would do.
Until it had to be.
Yes, exactly. Until it had to be. I loved when she broke her arm. I mean, I was like,
oh my God, that hurt so
it was
bad.
so good.
Oh my God.
I mean, this show can be so fierce and they do it so well. You know.
Of course, the same thing happened on Glow, but in a different kind
Well,
of way.
it wasn't really. Yeah, it wasn't really that. Glow, people, you gotta watch Glow. All right, tell us what Lily said.
The fight scene between Rita and Drago was amazing, and this adds a new facet to Rita's character. Until now, she was always the protector, calm, thoughtful, and in control. She has a quiet strength. It's clear that she took Ruby's place in Fight Club to protect her, but when she fought Drago in Fight Club, but mostly in the hallway, we saw something that we didn't see until now. Rita shows such strength in a physical way, such power and determination. I don't know what happened in her mind in this hallway. Did she kill Drago intentionally to protect Ruby?
Oh, yeah.
And thought she would not be charged because she is an undercover cop? Did she totally lose control and simply killed Drago with her bare hands in a rage outburst? But it definitely adds a new layer to an already complex character, and I love her even more. And of course, it sets the base of a great storyline, I hope so, with Mari in season 7.
So what I loved is that you all got really excited about Rita all of a sudden. What we've been saying the whole season, you're figuring out
first minute I practically laid eyes on her.
Well, that's because they haven't really given her enough to do until now.
Exactly.
But now you're all there with Rita, waiting to see what she has to do in season 7. And when it comes to the state of her mind, it's true. It could go either way, but I think that she made a decision that she knew she had to kill her. What is interesting, though, did she do it knowing she might pay the ultimate price, or did she do it thinking, you know what, I'll just say it was self-defense and they'll help me out and I'll get out of it?
Yeah. What also it reminded me of in a little way was the Incredible Hulk. I mean, she was always a strong presence, but then all of a sudden it was like she turned green and burst her shirt.
Well,
I mean, she just was converted into another being almost.
Mm-hmm. So Rachel says, it was an epic fight between Rita and Drago, and I liked the editing with the police questioning Vera and Jake. Everyone is in a fight for their life. It's all on the line. It's true. It was a really good kind of cross-editing between that. The editing
is always so brilliant.
And I loved David's response to the fight.
Leah Purcell is a complete revelation. She's played it so subtly all season and then ended this run with all guns blazing. That showdown with Drago was incredible. From the way it was shot, the fight choreography, and even the choice of editing it with intensity of Vera being interviewed by the police. That shot of Rita emerging from the steam in slow motion was about the most badass thing I've ever seen in Wentworth since Bea and Frankie's showdown in season 2, episode 11. I agree.
Yes, and I have to warn you, I'm going to have a lot of pictures of Rita in this on this vlog because there were just too many good pictures.
But this is true. That was just
it was
stunning. Mm-hmm. Rita's subsequent breakdown as she's led to the slot and the final exchange between her and Mari in the slot makes me so excited for the inevitable Clash of the Titans.
A lot of this is in caps,
7.
by the way. Yes. He's very excited. He really is.
Yes,
very
he's
excited.
really excited. If season 7 is to be the last, then we're going out with an almighty fireworks display.
Yeah, it was very exciting. It was a very exciting scene. And it's true, many of you have pointed out the similarities with Bea, and it goes back to the beginning where we saw Rita's entrance mimic Bea's entrance in many ways to the prison. And now many of you are comparing this fight between Rita and Drago to the fight between Frankie and Bea, and that is a huge compliment on your behalf that you're saying it was up to that level. But including with seeing her all bloody, the mirroring of Drago locking Rita in the supply closet when Joan locked Bea in the storage room. So there are a lot of similarities. What's interesting is that a lot of you wrote about these similarities without actually expressing how you feel about it. Because we didn't like the Bally mirroring with Ruby because we didn't feel that the relationship between Ruby and Allie rose enough to even be worthy of being compared.
It was insulting to the memory of B.
However, I personally feel, and I would be interested in knowing what you feel, I feel that definitely the mirroring between B and Rita does not offend me. In fact, I like it.
No, I think it's intentional, and I think it works.
Yeah. So the cops dropping Rita in the end, I thought was a little much, but you had some things to say, Susan.
It's understandable that the cops cut ties with Rita. She blew her cover to Ruby, which compromises the whole operation, whether Ruby tells or not. She did have split focus between Mari and Ruby, and she did kill someone that had nothing to do with her original operation, busting Mari. Her sole purpose of killing Drago was to protect Ruby. That makes her a criminal. I'm interested to see how the inmates will react when they find out she's a cop. You know it's going to come out. That's just great drama.
So on one hand, Susan says that it's understandable. On the other hand,
Shannon says, it was convenient. It was a convenient little twist, Saturday Night Live people, to find out that Rita's deep cover assignment was off the books. So she's got no real recourse on the outside unless she can convince Ray to come back to her. Yeah, but that's not that much help anyway. The added problem of her confession to Ruby in front of Allie about being undercover is going to likely work against her too. We all know how Allie likes to talk now, apparently. Blah, 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 blah.
Yes, and we all did find that very weird that Lauren says, did anyone else think it was bizarre the way Rita confessed to Ruby in the hallway where people can potentially hear that she's a cop and knew Ruby was involved in Danny's death? Not only that, I don't know about the rest of the people, but Allie was right behind them, and I immediately thought, well, wait a second, Allie probably can hear all that. So if she didn't hear it, it's like, really?
Well, it was desperation. I mean,
I know, but she didn't even try to whisper in her ear or something. Anyway, so yeah, I did think it was weird. Kathy says, if we're continuing on the issue of the cops dropping Rita, I do have a real problem with the way Rita was treated by her partners after the fight, just leaving her there without even giving her the benefit of the doubt. So, personally, I felt that it was a bit much, that they just dropped her completely with that, and it was very convenient that it was off the books. The only thing that they obviously had a good cop, bad cop. You know, the one of them was bleh, and the other one was sort of trying to be nice. And he said, You've been in deep cover too long. You've crossed the line. You now think like a criminal. And so what I have to say about that is that really, I felt really bad for her in the end. And we see a lot, especially, I mean, at least on television and movies, we see a lot of detectives
cops
who go under deep cover, spend a lot of time with those people, and end up making bad choices. It end up kind of messing with their brains. And I really think that the police should take more responsibility for these people.
It's like Stockholm Syndrome, you know.
Yes.
But you have to identify with them to stay alive,
exactly.
and you start to identify with them. You know, you start to become part of it.
I really think that the police should take more responsibility for people.
Yes, because it's classic.
Yes,
we know that deep cover is a very, very, very difficult on the psyche of police men and women, and they often cross the line.
And it makes total sense.
And they're allowed to cross the line in many cases, and that even confuses things
more. Not only
more.
are they allowed,
they're encouraged.
It's kind of exploitation, because they use their bodies, they use their minds to get what they need, and then they throw them away, toss them away when they're done with them. That's really not fair. So yes, that's what we have to say about that. Now we have a couple of issues. The first major issue that I have is that Rita says that she's known all along that Ruby was the one who killed Danny. My question is how? My understanding was that she hadn't seen that tattoo until last episode. So how would she have known where there were absolutely no other identity markers that she could have identified?
Well, yeah, because she did say she saw the CCTV,
but we all saw the CCTV.
She might have recognized her.
How?
It's her sister. She knows her intimately, but she didn't know about the tattoo.
Out of all the gin joints of all the
talent, I know. I agree.
So no, I don't see that. Now Rachel has two other problems.
That's a Casablanca reference, by the way.
The first one is, why wouldn't Costa think it was totally weird that Ruby specifically said she didn't want Rita to find out about the fight? Costa doesn't know they're sisters. That made no sense to me at all. I agree with that. I don't even really know what it served except to tell us that she doesn't want Rita to know. And then, and Rita didn't hurt her reputation with the women at all, screaming about wanting to talk to the cops again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's what you want. The whole prison hearing you scream about how you want to talk to the cops or the governor because, you know, that's what these women respect more than anything. Someone who
Yeah.
wants to tell everything to the authorities. Yeah, but I think in her state of mind.
Yes, she was not. It's like Channing. She was
Yeah.
not in her right mind.
What I don't understand is why she kept saying, "What is it? It's my house. It's my house." Is that what she said?
I don't remember it.
I don't know.
I really don't
I didn't
remember
get
it.
that. But anyway, I can forgive that. And again, you know, we are harsh on the little details sometimes. I'm not going to be
I'm
on
not
those.
going to be harsh on those at all.
Now, I did wonder for a minute and a half why Drago decided to not. I mean, you know, she was supposed to wait for Mari to come out and kill Ruby herself. Why did she decide to take it upon herself? And then I realized it was because Smiles told her that she was being transferred, and she didn't think Mari would have the chance to do it. She needed to do it before that happened. So rest in peace, Drago.
I don't find. I'm so sorry.
No. It took me a second to figure it out, but it made total sense.
And I think that it was there on the screen.
Yes. So R.I.P. Drago. If you'd only kept your mouth shut in those final seconds, you would have still been alive. Because guess what? If you hadn't said she's dead.
She's dead.
Which was, again, a little too convenient, but that's okay.
You know, I know this is crazy, but I'm going to kind of miss Drago.
I know, I liked her too.
She's a very good actress.
She was good.
And
she was a different, interesting kind of character.
She was interesting, yes. I'm going to miss her dynamic.
With Mari, yes. Mm-hmm. I didn't completely not have sympathy for her at all. Her love confession got to me, I have to say.
Oh, you're such a softie for love.
I know. So, now, the end shot with Rita and Mari. Rita's face and Mari's reflection in the slot's window. That was a really, really great shot. It's a perfect setup for season 7. I am truly looking forward to seeing these
the Titans, David.
Yep, these two, especially when you add Kaz to the mix. It's these three. I'm eager to see their dynamics. Diana reminds us that Rita in Prisoner was top dog. Though Rita in Prisoner was a very different character. She wasn't an undercover cop. Her trajectory and her storyline were different. So I'm not completely expecting a repetition. But I do think that, again, even if she doesn't want the role, she might end up having to assert herself because sometimes it's a dog eat dog unless you're top dog.
And then you eat the other dog.
Exactly. Now you're predicting that for season 7 that it will be 2 camps, Rita, Ruby, and Kaz versus Mari and Ali. Poor Ali. Well, that's what she's got left with.
Ali, what has become of you?
I think overall this was Did I say Rachel's conclusion about this episode? I don't think so. I don't think anyone would claim it was their best finale by any means, but it did provide a good launch for next season and wrapped up some loose ends.
I actually thought it was a fabulous finale because I had a lot of little quibbles throughout the season about a lot of things that I think that they did a very good job of answering and giving you satisfaction for something in the moment, things from the past, and setting up the future. I think, and there were so many exciting moments. I think it was a very good finale.
I think it was a solid finale. I think the fight made it really exciting.
Well, there's always something like that. It was like beach death. There's always something that's heightened. Yes.
I think it was very exciting, that part of it. The Stalker story, even though I wasn't as invested in it, the moment where Channing shot Murphy, I thought was a very nice kind of a shocker.
Absolutely.
The way they managed to wrap it up with Jay coming up with the idea of framing him for Ferguson, again, was a neat way to wrap that story up. I was disappointed about the benched characters. I was disappointed we didn't see more of Kaz, Mari, and of course Ali throughout the episode.
Throughout the season.
Throughout the season, that's what I meant. But I think it was a solid finale. I think that it managed to get things, to finish on a high. I think that last season was so exciting especially because after the lame season we had, to get a really good finale was doubly exciting. But I think this whole season was solid.
And
So,
by the way,
mhm.
Sonia's death.
I know, Sonia's death. So actually, this brings me to my final point, which is there were many things along the way. There was Sonia's death. There was Frigid's exit. There were many things that happened that in the intensity of everything that's going on, and actually went by so quickly. I think it's. I'm happy we have the party next week because this will be a good time to acknowledge all of those, to celebrate the season, to celebrate our characters and everything they've gone through. So again, you have the surveys, you have the opportunity to submit your own personal contribution, which can be really, really creative, or it can be just your personal a little video or a picture or something to show your contribution, to show the fans who you are, and to have a little bit more of a personal interaction with all of you. So your deadline for all of those is Thursday, September 13th at noon EST, which is really, really close, people, so get going. And we can't wait to share the party with you next Sunday. Thank you again for joining us.
Always.
For the final episode of Season 6. We will see you next week at the party, and hopefully next year for Season 7. Who knows?
Put on your party hats.
Bye-bye.
Bye.